Welcome to another episode of Women in Conservation Wednesdays. Today I'm joined with Lucy Luck and I'm very excited that you're here. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for getting in
Um,
contact. I'm really excited.
Amazing, good. So before we get into the conversation about what you're currently doing and about experiences as a woman in conservation, I was hoping you could give a little bit of background, like academic background, conservation, like work experience, things that you've done, just to provide some context for listeners.
So mine was very mix and matchy. So I'm not originally from Cornwall. I'm originally from North London in Enfield. And
Hmm.
I always knew I wanted to do conservation, always knew I wanted to be around animals. And in secondary school, you have to do work experience, and I did it in like a farm. And then
Yeah.
I loved that. And then when I went to college, I did animal care and management at college. And that was
Hmm.
for 2 years. That was at Capel Manor, and I carried on with the zoo stuff. I did lambing a bit more, kind of did work experience in a vet, and so I did every single corner that you could because I didn't quite know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I even did some work experience in a zoo, and just trying to see what I liked. And then my college kind of did a guinea pig year of doing a university degree, so I could just naturally just rolled onto that, which
Hmm.
was it was animal care and management, but it was a degree. And what was really cool about Capel was they had a little farm there, and they had the farm, they had some exotic animals there, so we learned how to feed the animals. So we learned about nutrition, about making feed timetables, about anatomy, about training, about
Hmm.
enclosure design in general. And then, so it was a real mixture. And I was trying to figure out if I wanted to be a vet or a zookeeper. And I didn't really want to do either of them through doing that. And then I moved to Cornwall and was just adjusting to Cornwall life, and then did a top-up degree in Newquay, and that was a
Yeah.
top-up in zoology and animal behaviour. And it was only a year, and unfortunately it was during the COVID year. So
Oh God.
I met people for 2 months, and then we all just had to work from home. So I just did everything online. But before that, I got to go into the zoo, and yeah, was trying to really figure out what path I wanted to take, but learning the very broad umbrella for everything. And
Hmm.
then I went on a trip to Peru with college. First time I'd ever got on a plane. And it sounds cliche, but changed my life. I knew I wanted to be in the field.
Yeah.
The thing with the vet was it was very domestic, samey. The zoo was you're doing the same thing every day. But it was really cool because you're going behind the scenes. But I wanted to do something outdoorsy and more exotic animals and be doing research. And when I went to Peru, I loved it. We were in the heart of the jungle. We were doing bat surveys. We were doing bird ringing. We were in the rescue centre with the monkeys. It's everything. And I loved that. So I came back
Hmm.
and thought, right, I want to be conservationist who's out in the field doing the work. Because I can't sit at an office job either. I quite struggle doing that. I want to be outside
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's just gone from doing the broadness. And I think I'm only just now kind of specifying to what I want to do. But even now, I'm still not 100% sure where I'm going to end up. I just know I
Yeah.
want to be outside, always learning and teaching other people, really.
Hmm. That's so you've been you've covered loads of bases basically. You've just done everything. That's so interesting. Did you find that because obviously like you mentioned you were part of the COVID year, unfortunately.
Mm.
Did you find that maybe changed morale, changed what you were wanting to do, maybe made you a little bit more difficult to network and things like that?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
were you still no, I'm still gonna go straight ahead for it? Was it difficult to come out of that COVID year sort of thing?
It was, because my college years, they were great, but my college and uni years, the first 2 years I did at Capel, I still lived at home, so I didn't quite have the student life. So this was going to be my 1 year of student life. I move out.
Yeah.
I do all the shenanigans you do when you're a student. I couldn't because COVID. And so
Hmm.
that that really crushed me and it really annoyed me. And I know it's completely out of my control, but so it was really difficult that year. And all I had to do was just knuckle down and do the work. I couldn't go out and like do work
Yeah.
experience. I couldn't go out and see people. So it was really difficult. And but it didn't last the entire year. It lasted the majority of the year, but when it got towards the end, it got a bit easier. And then
Hmm.
you kind of cross paths with people who are in your class anyway, or you still keep up to in contact.
Yeah.
It was very difficult. It's not the same experience I'd hoped it would be, but I think it encouraged me to really branch out what I could do. So for my dissertation, it changed like 4 times because of COVID. It was going to be going to the zoo because you're allowed to go to the zoo at Newquay and watch the
Hmm.
lions. I did
Hmm.
it. I met this awesome zookeeper and he like let me go behind the scenes. He showed me all the lion's perfume. He was like, this lion's, he likes
Oh wow.
Beyonce. This is his favourite
Oh.
perfume. Showing me how they feed them. He like, was like this close to a lion. And I was like, this can be the best, this can be the best year. But then the zoo had to shut and so I had to think of another way to do it. And
Mm.
then the zoo opened again, so like, okay, maybe I can go. It was just
Yeah.
yo-yoing. And so I had to figure out a way to just do something totally online. And so I ended up just watching animal behaviour through these virtual, like, cameras that they have online where you can see what the animal's doing like 24/7. And I had to
Hmm.
do that. I had to just watch a lion
Oh
through these
God.
webcams and do it like that. It was interesting because it wasn't even a place in Cornwall. It wasn't even a place in the West. It was like
Yeah.
up in Devon. So I wouldn't have been able to have done that if it was a normal circumstance anyway. But
Yeah.
that was quite interesting. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I always gravitate towards like the lions and the tigers and the big animals. So
Hmm.
despite COVID, it actually it pushed me to stay in that corner and I could be with my big
Oh,
cats, which was quite nice.
yeah. Like a really exciting office job. That's what that was.
It made me enjoy it because I knew like 3 times a day I'd sit down and look at my cub because they were cubs. I found this
Oh,
webcam while the cubs were like days old. So I thought, this is great. I can just
yeah.
document the cubs growing up. And that's what I
Yeah.
did. And that made me enjoy it.
Hmm.
I couldn't do that as like a job forever, but for that moment, for that year, that helped me get through it. Because I knew,
Yeah.
I'm going to see my babies in a minute. Okay.
Okay, so thank you for giving us like some background then on what you've been doing. So in terms of presently then, what would you say you're currently doing? What projects? Where are you like working? What are you doing currently?
So at the moment, so when I finished uni, I applied to every single job the Wildlife Trust had to the point where I think they just gave me something out of sympathy. But I just applied for all of them. They would ask questions like really big business words, and I just and then an apprenticeship popped up, and I wasn't going to take it initially because growing up, because I was in North London, the ocean was nowhere near me. I never even thought the marine would be my world. I was always the big cats, the carnivores, the woods. I
Yeah.
thought, I know nothing about marine, but I knew we were
Mhm.
moving to Cornwall, so I was like, that transition, I thought actually it'd be really useful to learn about marine while I'm living in Cornwall. It's such a
Yeah.
massive part.
Hmm.
And it took a bit of convincing from my parents, and then just like, just do it. Just like, you've got nothing to lose. You've done your degree. You've just got through a COVID year. You don't want to go back to cafe work, so just do it.
No.
Just do it.
Yeah.
See what happens. And I applied for it, and then it was quite a long process, like interviews and questions. But I eventually got it, and the main reason I got it was because when I moved to Cornwall, I found a local marine group instantly because I wanted to
Oh.
learn about the marine world. So
Hmm.
Cornwall has a network called the Shore Network, and
Hmm.
that's 17 marine groups across the county, from Penzance all the way to Bodmin, and they're
Oh.
just volunteers. So there's one in Falmouth,
Yeah.
there's one in Newquay, they're everywhere. And as soon as I moved here, I just gravitated towards them. I was just like, I just want to join. I want to learn. And
Yeah.
I'd been volunteering with them for like 2 years.
Hmm.
And then as soon as I finished my degree, this apprenticeship came up, and it was an apprenticeship with Cornwall Wildlife Trust, but a project based in the Mount Bay area, and that's where I am. I'm in Penzance.
Yeah.
And it was going to be focused on Mount Bay Marine Group.
Mm.
So I'm already volunteering for them. And then I applied for this job, and they were like, well, you volunteered for them, you live there. This is literally, you're the perfect candidate because you've got the network, you've got the people there, you know the
Yeah.
people, you live there. It will really help make this project work. And that's essentially how I got it. Through that volunteering and applying for the job, the worlds just
Mm.
collided perfectly. Like, I
Yeah.
couldn't have asked for anything else better.
Mm.
So now my title is the Marine Product Apprentice at Cornwall Wildlife Trust. And I'm just in the heart of the marine team, which if you told me 3 years ago, I'd just be like, absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
And I've been there for like 18 months. And I did think I would have escaped studying, but this involved doing like a business apprenticeship, which was
Mm.
really, really difficult. Because the apprenticeship is with Cornwall Marine Network, but the Wildlife Trust is like the organisation who's supporting it. So I had to
Mm.
do this business degree with someone else and be at the Wildlife Trust doing their job. And
Oh
then
God.
that's just my binoculars falling.
Don't worry, it's fine.
And then, yeah, I was like kind of doing two things at the same time. But I've only just finished that now. So now for the next like 8 months, it's just purely Wildlife Trust work.
Yeah.
It was only ever contracted for 2 years anyway. That's the thing with the Wildlife Trust and the charity work. It's very limited. It can be 5 years, it can be 1 year, it can be two.
Mm.
And this one was only two, so I've only got like 6 months left, really.
Oh. Do you have any idea what you'd like to do after it then?
I really do want to go travelling, because I caught the bug quite late, I think, when I went
Yeah.
to Peru. It was only a few years ago. I'd never been on a plane, and I just got hooked. And then the year following that, I went to Thailand for the marine stuff, all for volunteering. And I loved it. I couldn't really travel much, like many people, because of COVID. So I just want to go
Mm.
back out again. And
Yeah.
there's a organisation I've been following for a while called Save Vietnam's Wildlife. And they just
Mm-hmm.
save pangolins, and it looks
Oh.
amazing. So I want to do that. So I've been looking into doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just want to see the different animals in the different cultures and just
Yeah.
learn different things.
Yeah.
So that's on my cards.
Well, that sounds amazing. Okay, so in terms of your internship then and what you're doing, what would you say the aims of this apprenticeship is, the project that you're doing? What would you say the aims are?
The main aims, like I've had to say this like 1,000 times during my like project, like
I can imagine.
just to do this. It's mainly in Mounts Bay because it's classed as a deprived area in terms of where people live, and not many people have access to the beach, even though we're right next to it. So the main aim is to get those people to go to the coast. So just to
Yeah.
get them on a coach, to get them to the coast, to go to their schools and bring the coast to them, just to
Mm-hmm.
reconnect them, to teach them about wildlife, but also for their well-being. So it improves their mindfulness about being in nature, because of COVID and probably because of their circumstances, they have no confidence, which is totally understandable.
Yeah.
So it's helping that. And the main bit is working with Mounts Bay Marine Group to train those volunteers for free with a lot of training programs they offer. They do have to pay, but the trust is wholeheartedly going into this group and saying, if you want to do shore search training, you absolutely can. We can supply that for you. If you want to learn to snorkel, we can give that to you. If you want to learn how to monitor seagrass, we can absolutely do that. And just like holding their hand for the next 2 years, just really helping them. Because
Yeah.
they're quite a baby group. They've only been around since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Lost 3 years because of COVID, so they're very young. Just holding
Yeah.
their hand, just to really get them to the best place they possibly be. So then when
Mm-hmm.
the trust leaves, they won't leave them in the dark, but that support won't be as strong as it is now. They'll still be around, but they won't be there all the time. And
Yeah.
there's just up training volunteers as well, trying to inspire people and actually do some conservation work as well. So seagrass in Mounts Bay is meant to be one of the biggest in Europe. And so
Mm-hmm.
teaching them that, this incredible habitat It's on your doorstep. The
Yeah.
species you have on your doorstep, you have no idea. This is incredible. Make the most of it. And also, as a community, to create something called Charter of the Sea. So there's a
Yeah.
Mounts Bay Charter of the Sea, which is like a list of 10 things that people have to. It's just a form, and you put in what you prioritise. So there would be pollution, and then different things about what you think should be prioritised with pollution. About
Hmm.
education, what do you think should be prioritised? About legislations, what should be changed? And that goes out to the public. And so one of my main roles was to go door to door and be, you want to sign our survey, please? And then go the next day as just my normal self. Like, I want some bananas this time. And then, so focusing that in the Mounts Bay, but then they're also doing a Cornwall Charter of the Sea, and that's only just come out, but it's the same thing. But Mounts Bay is
Yeah.
just focused on the Mounts Bay area.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's been an insane project. It's gone very quick, and they've
Yeah.
offered these volunteers so much.
Yeah.
It's been mad. It's been incredible.
So you've been doing this for quite a while then. How successful has it been? Has it been like a pretty successful like thing where the community is willing to participate, or has it been quite like, is it difficult at first to kind of get it going?
It's been a bit of both, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, they're all volunteers. They've got day jobs. They're maybe they've just got second lives. They're just all over,
Yeah.
so they haven't got the time to do it all the time, which is quite
Hmm.
hard for the trust when you're working with volunteer groups. You need to work with them all the time, but they can't necessarily be around to work with you all the time because they're only volunteers. I
Yeah.
really noticed that. And going around canvassing, sometimes you get people who are lovely. They're like, we need this. This is the best survey ever. But then there have been times where people really like thrown me off. And I remember the first times I ever did canvassing, my colleague was just like, you got this, Lucy. You can do
Yeah.
this. You've seen how nice everyone is. And then, of course, I get the one person who's a bit, why are you doing this? What's the
Hmm.
point? What's
Yeah.
the point changing minds and attitudes? And I just look at like, um, so there's a real mixture of attitudes. So it can be quite difficult. It's just knowing, I've learned how to respond to those harder feedback of people being like, what's the point? What's the point? And then saying,
Yeah.
what's the point? Because you're changing attitudes, and like you live in a beautiful area, and there's so much that can be done, and so much that needs being saved. So I think that's what I've learned the most is the
Hmm.
confidence. Because
Yeah.
when it comes to confrontation, I just shiver and just like go into a shell. It's just really
Yeah.
like, I have to stand up for nature, and I've had to do
Hmm.
that quite a lot, and like put my foot down, and be like, no, you need to do this because it's saving
Yeah.
the planet. And like, I've had to do that, and that's been hard, but it's something I've had to learn quite quickly. And but then there's
Yeah.
people who are brilliant and think this is incredible work and are so eager to get involved, and they do.
Hmm.
And so many new volunteers have joined the group since this project, which has been great. They'll probably leave soon, but they've had that moment and they've made that change in that small time. And
Yeah.
even that is just valuable in itself.
Yeah. Like any difference, regardless of size,
Yeah.
is a difference at the end of the day. That's like it sounds like you've learned so many like new skills then, like the building the confidence, even though that might
Mm.
seem like terrifying when it happens. I guess it's great to be able to have that skill because it knows that it notes that you're passionate about this as well, and you
Yeah.
will fight for it, which is great because
I've
it's,
got the passion, but it's the confidence that needs growing.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, and it's also like practical skills. I know my species way better than I did a year ago. Like,
Mhm.
if you took me rock pooling a year ago, I'd just be like, that's good seaweed. That's a slug. But I mean, I'm not an expert, but I can tell the difference, and that's really
Yeah.
good. So now I'm like going in my free time with a camera and taking pictures and then drawing it. Like, oh, this is really cool. This is like a stalked
Mhm.
jellyfish. Oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
And learning about cetaceans and bones. So something that's really developed in the last year is just learning about marine mammals. So I'm
Mhm.
going to show you something.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So for listeners, this is a porpoise skull, and
yeah.
a year ago I would not have known what porpoise was really or understood. But through like my apprenticeship, I've been surrounded by people who know, And
Yeah.
I ask them questions all the time, and they'll say, okay, this is a porpoise, this big, but you need a license to hold these and possess these because these are protected under the Wildlife and Countryside Act. So
Yeah.
I've got a license under Natural England to have this.
Hmm.
And so my goal is to take this to schools and other bones and teach just kids or teachers or for
Yeah.
the volunteer group just to show this lives outside in the ocean right now.
Hmm.
And this is what it looks like. And I've learned about that and I've become obsessed. I have bones everywhere. I have a shelf of bones up there. I
That's
have bones in my
amazing.
garden being dried and cleaned as we speak.
Oh, wow.
But that passion's new. That
Yeah.
learning about the anatomy of animals and the natural history of animals wasn't there
Mm.
before until this
Yeah.
apprentice because I can appreciate it more because I see
Yeah.
what work they put in towards all these species. They work
Mm.
tirelessly for these species. It's
Yeah.
blown my mind.
Mm. I find it so interesting when people like don't really know too much, but know that it's what they're about to go into is something like interesting, and then they come out of an experience and they're like professionals, basically.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, look at this, I know everything. It's so insane that you've gone from like understanding that they needed to be conserved to having like full appreciation for like the species diversity of
Yeah.
marine and
100%. It's been from you learn why you have to protect them, but not really understanding the animal itself.
yeah,
And yeah, now I know like the cool, interesting facts. Like this, a porpoise used to be called the puffin pig because of the sneeze they make. Sounds like a pig, and the Latin
oh
name originates from the word pig. Didn't know that,
wow.
but it's just
I've
cool little
learned
facts
something
like
new
that.
today. Thank you so much. Okay, well, thank you for talking about your current project. So now I want to touch a little bit more about working in the world of conservation as a woman. So how have you sort of found your experiences working as a woman? Do you think it's had perhaps any experiences that you've had have impacted you or your career or anything like that?
I think maybe what we were saying earlier, the confidence thing. I've had to be
Yeah,
more confident and stand up for myself a bit more. Because if it was other people, they probably wouldn't have that. Where people would approach me and be like, "Well, why are you doing this?" Because I
yeah,
was a woman doing it. But if that was a man, they'd be like, "Oh yeah." I think that made that situation harder. Um,
yeah.
but being at Wildlife Trust, the marine team is mostly women. It is
Oh
mostly women.
wow.
There's probably two men, and
Yeah.
that's debatable because they're just surrounded by women all the time. So there is a very powerful woman energy in the trust, which is nice. But it's when I'm mostly working from home and I don't have that. It can be harder, and I have to be by myself.
Yeah.
Um, and even with volunteers, it's kind of yeah, it's difficult. I'm also not only just being a woman, but part of the LGBT community. That's made it a bit difficult as well. So there's two mountains
Yeah.
there trying to tackle. Can't pick one struggle. I have to have two.
Just collect them all.
I'm just gonna have them all. And I do feel the setback sometimes. I do feel like I really have to push, and sometimes I do feel quite like I'm not being seen and not being
Yeah.
heard properly. I do feel that quite a lot. So I'm trying so hard to just speak up a bit what I truly feel, trying to make that
Yeah.
passion come through and be braver. But
Hmm.
I only don't feel brave because I feel the pressure of coming back at me like, oh, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand why because it's such a powerful women based team. So
Hmm.
yeah, and especially in Cornwall, it's quite a small place. It probably feels a bit more limiting, but
Yeah.
I'm really trying to get braver and be able to speak out a bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that's good that you're sort of building on yourself then to help this, and it's good as well that you've had like a I guess indirect support system to having a majority women's team.
Yeah,
That's just really nice and comforting. So thank you for talking about that.
it's okay.
Okay, I've got two questions left, and the next one's a pretty difficult one. I find a lot of people struggle with picking this, but I'm going to ask anyways. What is your favorite memory from working in conservation?
You know what? I know this straight away.
Oh wow.
So
Oh okay.
it would have been when I went to Peru. So the first time I got
Hmm.
on a plane, first time I went somewhere, I was by myself as well. I didn't really know my college mates that well.
Yeah.
And it was like, what, 3 days in? And we'd have, like, different days we'd do different things. And the bat things that we would do on my timetable, it was like 4 days ahead. So I was always like, oh, I'm doing the bats soon. I'm so excited. And
Yeah.
it'd be my day to do the bats. It would be late at night. We'd literally just patrol into the rainforest, in hand,
Hmm.
and just go deep into the forest. And this was to do mist nets.
Hmm.
And just the fact we were walking in the rainforest, pitch black, but the sounds you could hear. And I just felt like a proper adventurer. But then what the best bit was, it was like dinner time. And then the people who were in charge of the camp, we obviously weren't as far as I thought we were because someone just like
Yeah.
dipped back. And
Yeah.
then we came back with spag bowl and we just had spag bowl in the rainforest while listening to bats. And I love that memory so much. Like every time I have spag bowl now, I'm like, I just think of that.
Reminiscing, yeah.
Well, it was just amazing. And then, yeah, we were just we'll get mist nets up and look at bats afterwards.
That's such a cool one.
It's so
Wow.
cool.
I love how like whenever I ask this question, people like don't provide you anything that you'd expect them to say at all. Like they always pick an interest like spaghetti in the rainforest. It's amazing. It's the best thing ever. Okay, thank you. Last question, and then you could get over your skulls. Do you have any tips for people wanting to get into conservation, particularly women, but really just anyone at all?
Volunteer. Get as
Hmm.
much experience as possible because I didn't do a degree in marine and I'm in the marine
Yeah.
team. I did one
Yeah.
module for like 3 weeks in marine. So the knowledge wasn't what got me in. It was the
Yeah.
experience of volunteering and just the passion. So let your passion shine. Like
Hmm.
if you just nerd out what you can and like really share what you want to people, let that passion get through and volunteer. Volunteer with a local marine group or if it's a mammal group, just volunteer and just get the experience in because that will just really help with confidence and you'll learn a lot. I've learned
Yeah.
the majority of my stuff through the marine group and it's only got
Hmm.
stronger through the apprentice, which in a
Hmm.
way is like a heightened volunteer role. So it would be that 100%. And don't be afraid to like put out those ideas that you want to do because most of the time people will actually be really interested in doing them. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to put out your ideas.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed this. It's been so good.
Oh, thank you. I